Hello friends, welcome to Lit Shelf. Today we're diving into Do the Work by Steven Pressfield. It was 7 a.m. and James's eyes were already open, but he was still lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. A faint light filled the room, yet something heavy weighed on him. For the past 3 months he'd been thinking about starting his book, a story close to his heart. But every time he tried to begin, his mind conjured excuses. The weather's too nice today. I'll go for a walk first. Let me check Instagram real quick. I don't have a full plan yet. I need to think more. James felt he lacked time, inspiration, or the perfect setup, like a flawless writing desk or the right mood. The truth? Nothing external was stopping him. He was his own obstacle, held back by an invisible force called resistance. At first, James thought it was just his habit of procrastinating. But when he read Steven Pressfield's The War of Art, it was like looking into a mirror. The book explained that resistance isn't just an excuse, it's a real force inside everyone. It's not a demon or a ghost, but an internal enemy that seduces, distracts, and pulls us away from growth. James suddenly saw his feelings clearly. Resistance wasn't some outside factor, it was the inner voice whispering, "Who are you to write a book? Who'd read it? Wait for the perfect moment." The scariest part? Resistance always hid behind logical, sweet-sounding excuses. James began recognizing his patterns. Whenever he wanted to do something meaningful, writing, meditating, focusing on health, or committing to a relationship, resistance grew strongest. That day, he decided to understand this invisible force and confront it head-on. He started writing for just 10 minutes each morning, telling himself, just sit down and start. His mind threw distractions at him. A vibrating phone, a friend's text, a slight hunger pang. That's resistance, he realized. It's cunning, speaking our language, making us fear failure or feel like we're not good enough. But James understood these were illusions. Resistance feeds on fear. The more you give in, the stronger it gets. Yet it's fiercest when you're closest to your goal. He recalled submitting a short story to a competition. The day before, he nearly withdrew, terrified of rejection. But he faced his fear, submitted it, and, surprisingly, his story was shortlisted. That feeling of satisfaction lingered, a small victory over himself. He realized resistance's job was to block that fulfillment. It appears before anything that can help you grow: writing, losing weight, starting a business, or pursuing a passion. The more meaningful the task, the stronger resistance becomes, signaling its importance. James built a system. He wrote for 15 minutes every morning, no expectations. Resistance still showed up, but he learned to spot it. When an excuse popped up, he'd ask, "Is this me or resistance?" The biggest trick? Resistance never goes away. It shapeshifts at every level. Just when James thought he'd beaten it, he noticed he was avoiding editing his first draft, thinking, "It's done. I need a break." Resistance had just changed its disguise. One day, James met his friend Nick, who was on a fitness journey. Nick admitted that every morning he wanted to skip the gym and sleep. But he pushed through. James smiled and said, "You're fighting resistance daily too." He no longer feared it. He realized that if something scared him, it was probably worth doing. That thought became his power. The day wasn't far when James completed his first book. When people asked how he did it, he'd smile and say, "I learned to recognize resistance." But the story doesn't end there. Resistance never retires. If you enjoyed this free summary, consider subscribing to Lit Shelf, joining our membership, or supporting us via PayPal. Now, back to the summary. James was ready to face resistance daily, at every turn. That's the real victory, knowing and overcoming yourself. If you're delaying something close to your heart, pause and ask, "Is resistance standing in my way? Are you ready to defeat it?" James finished his first book, but the real story was just beginning. He'd thought resistance was a one-time battle, but as he started his next project, a YouTube channel to share his writing journey, it returned. The moment he picked up the camera, resistance whispered, "You'll look awkward. Who'd care about your videos? Plan it out first." James countered, "This is just the start. Go for it. He'd learned from the book, start before you're ready. Waiting for clarity or perfection was Resistance's trap. He promised himself he'd publish his first video quickly, knowing hesitation would let Resistance win. He hit record, spoke his first line without hesitation, and felt the momentum. While editing, doubts crept in. The shot's off, the audio's unclear, the background's bad. He stopped himself, remembering, ready is a lie. Perfect never comes. Within a week, he recorded 3 videos, focusing on progress over perfection. He set a goal, 100 videos in 6 months, broken into manageable daily tasks. The real test came in the middle phase. The initial excitement faded, video making felt boring, views dropped, and some comments were critical. This was what Pressfield called the belly of the beast, where you're stuck, with no clear path forward or back, and resistance lurks everywhere. Doubts hit James. Was this idea even good? Should I pivot? He'd abandoned projects at this stage before. One day, feeling low, he binged Netflix for 2 days. On the third, he told himself, sink or rise above these questions. He reopened the book, which said, trust the process, not your mood. Pressfield noted that most quit in this messy middle, but the mess is part of creation. James reminded himself, no judgment, no overthinking, no quitting until 100 videos. He stuck to his original vision, minimizing distractions like Instagram, and prioritized morning writing, meditation, and gym time to keep his mind clear. Momentum felt magical. The more he moved, the further he went. But the trickiest stage was the end. With 92 videos done, 8 remained, and resistance morphed again. A new idea, a podcast, tempted him to jump ship. He caught himself. This is resistance pulling me from the finish line. New doubts surfaced. Will people like these final videos? Will my efforts be wasted? This was the fear of success Pressfield described. When you're close to finishing, resistance makes you avoid completion. James told himself, ship it. Despite the fear, he uploaded the last 8 videos without over-editing. A strange peace followed, like pushing a boulder off a cliff. He realized resistance would always return, at every beginning, middle, and end. But he had a formula. Start before you're ready, trust the process, finish no matter what. If you're waiting to be ready or avoiding action, ask yourself, are you ready to beat resistance? Just start. Part 2. From Amateur to Professional. James's book hit the market. Holding it for the first time, he smiled. A quiet victory. But the joy didn't last. Days after the launch, he felt empty. Now what? His dream was complete, but the next chapter was the real test. One day at a cafe, struggling to write a new chapter, a voice in his head said, take a break. You've earned it. You're famous now. Relax. His friend Ryan, a filmmaker, noticed his mood and said, You're acting like an amateur. James was taken aback. Ryan explained, You think one big win means inspiration should come automatically. A true artist shows up daily, with or without it. That night, James reread The War of Art Section 3 hit hard. The difference between an amateur and a professional isn't just skill, it's mindset. Amateurs rely on motivation. If the mood's off, they quit. Professionals work regardless, rain or shine, inspired or not. Reflecting on his recent behavior, James realized he'd been acting like an amateur, thinking one success gave him a pass. He made a commitment. Every morning at 8 a.m., he'd sit at his desk, inspiration or not. He tracked his writing days on a calendar and hung a whiteboard with the words, no excuses, show up. It was tough at first. Some days he didn't feel like opening his laptop. But he disciplined himself, understanding that being a professional meant daily practice, no matter the outcome. One rainy day, with a perfect cafe vibe and friends planning a movie, James was tempted to join. But he remembered his commitment, politely declined, and returned to his desk. That's the difference. Amateurs flow with feelings, professionals prioritize work. James learned that professionalism requires dedication, patience, and humility. His book had brought some fame, social media tags, interviews, but he kept his ego in check. Fame is temporary, craft is permanent. He stopped chasing reviews or replying to every comment, focusing solely on writing. Fear still crept in. What if my next book flops? What if I'm a one-hit wonder? But he recalled Pressfield's line, asterisk, the professional acts in the face of fear. Fear is normal, but letting it stop you kills consistency. He built a ritual, 1 hour of free writing every morning, no structure, no expectations, just letting words flow. Like a musician tuning an instrument, he saw it as daily practice. Being a professional wasn't about being a full-time artist. It was about full-time dedication, whether anyone noticed or not. His work became his reward, his loyalty to his mission unwavering. One day, a young writer asked, "How do you know when to write? How do you stay motivated?" James smiled. "I don't wait for motivation, I just sit down and work. Some days it's good, some days it's bad, but I write daily." That's the difference between an amateur and a professional. He realized he'd overcome the fear that once held him back, fear of judgment, failure. He pinned a note on his wall, his mantra, asterisk. Being a professional isn't about money, it's about how seriously you take your gift. James no longer wrote for awards or applause. He wrote because he loved it, loyal to his craft. Whether his next book was published or read, it didn't matter. He was a professional, ready, committed, every day. Asterisk, asterisk. Part 3. The Spiritual Journey of Creation, asterisk, asterisk. James's life took a new turn. After his book's success, he recognized the emptiness and learned that true satisfaction comes from daily work, not one-off achievements. At a literature festival in his hometown, where he was the chief guest, he met a nervous young writer named Ethan. Ethan confessed, "I write but haven't published. I want to quit because no one takes me seriously, and motivation fades." James suggested they talk over coffee at a local cafe, raindrops pattering on the windows, creating a cozy vibe. He shared his secret. The difference between an amateur and a professional is mindset. Amateurs work when they feel like it, needing inspiration or praise. Professionals show up every day, rain, sadness, fear, or fatigue, no excuses. Ethan listened intently. James continued, "When my first book came out, I thought everything would be smooth. But the real challenge hit when motivation vanished. I was still acting like an amateur, chasing comfort. Asterisk, the war of art asterisk taught me to change my mindset." "What kind?" Ethan asked. "Professionals show up daily whether they want to or not," James replied. "I sit at my desk at 8 a.m. no matter what. It's discipline, a routine that turns you from amateur to professional." Ethan admitted, "I'm scared of what people will think or if I'll write something bad." James smiled. "A professional works despite fear. Fear is normal, but it shouldn't stop you. If you're scared, you're probably on the right path. And professionals don't work for praise. They focus on their mission. Their work is the reward." Ethan was quiet, then asked, "Even if I'm not earning money?" James nodded. "Being a professional isn't about money. It's about loyalty to your art. If you take it seriously, the world will too." He pulled out a notebook and wrote, asterisk, "The professional loves her work. She is loyal to it. She commits full time." "This is my mantra," he said. "Make it yours." Ethan, inspired, vowed to stop making excuses. Weeks later, Ethan messaged James. "My first short story got published in a magazine because of our cafe talk. I get what being a professional feels like now." James smiled, looking out at the rain. He remembered his own amateur days. Now, he wasn't just writing for himself. He was showing others the path he'd learned. Fame no longer mattered. He knew he had to sit at his desk every morning, ready, committed, loyal. He wasn't just a writer anymore. He was a professional. At a writer's camp in Delhi, surrounded by artists, James felt a unique energy. On the third day, an elderly writer, Mr. Kenneth, spoke with spiritual depth. "An artist's job is to work. Inspiration, ideas, and magic will follow, The muse comes when you're ready. Intrigued, James asked about the muse. Mr. Kenneth explained, "It's a mythical divine power that brings inspiration, but only when you show up daily without expecting results. She trusts your consistency." That night, James wrote without a plan. At first his mind was blank, but words came, then a character, a scene. 2 hours later, he'd created something unplanned yet heartfelt. He realized inspiration was within him, unlocked only when he surrendered logic and moved with faith. He made a rule: write every morning, whether ideas came or not. Some days he wrote a paragraph, others 5 pages flowed. Inspiration couldn't be forced. It had to be invited. Ethan called one day, excited. "I used to wait for ideas, but now I write daily and something new emerges. Sometimes it feels like someone else is guiding my fingers." James laughed. "You've met the muse. She comes when you're ready." He explained that consistent work clears mental clutter, creating space for inspiration. The more you wait for the perfect idea, the further it slips. Just write. James applied this philosophy. He stopped over-planning projects, trusting that clarity came from action, not endless thinking. On a writing trip to a mountain village with no network or distractions, he sat at a wooden desk. Expecting nothing, he started writing and crafted a short story that surprised him. He hadn't planned the ending but kept going. He learned the creative process is sacred, requiring trust, patience, and an open heart. When beginners asked for guidance, James said, "Sit down daily. The muse comes when you're available." A young woman, Sarah, who'd quit her job to pursue her passion, asked, "What if I don't know what to create?" James advised, "Start small. Write a word, draw a line, record a thought. Your job isn't to see the whole picture. It's to do one thing today. The rest will unfold." His definition of success had shifted. It wasn't about book sales, but showing up daily, trusting inspiration would come, and giving his best. Reading old drafts, James couldn't tell how he'd written them. It felt like he was a conduit for words from elsewhere. Inspiration flowed from dedication. Logic was useful, but overthinking early on killed imagination. The muse thrived on emotion and energy. Writing became a spiritual journey. His desk was his temple, where he'd sit, pen in hand, silently telling the universe, "I'm ready. Speak through me." In his last diary entry he wrote, "I don't wait for inspiration. I work, and she visits." The secret for any creator? Faith in the unseen and trust in the muse. Part 4, The Big Break, One day, James got a huge offer. A famous streaming platform wanted him to write a limited web series. Excited but scared, he faced his biggest project yet. For days, he struggled with ideas. What should I write? Will people like it? Then he revisited his old notes, finding a bolded line. Begin with a premise. Be clear about your why. He grabbed a whiteboard and wrote, "What's this story about?" Below, he answered, "It's about a man who loses everything but finds what truly matters." That simple clarity gave his chaos direction. He structured the story in 3 parts: beginning, conflict, resolution. Act 1 showed the character's normal life. Act 2 flipped it upside down. Act 3 rebuilt him. With a map in hand, he started writing. The first draft was messy, weak dialogues, aimless scenes. His inner perfectionist screamed, "This isn't good," but he silenced it. First drafts are rough. It's clay to mold later. His rule? Start fast and sloppy. The first draft was about free-flowing creativity, not judgment. James knew momentum was everything. A single day's break could derail him, so he wrote daily, even just a paragraph, regardless of mood or inspiration. When his half-done draft was ready, friends begged to read it. He hesitated, recalling Pressfield's advice. Ignore feedback while creating. A demotivating comment could stall him for weeks, so he refused, saying, "I'll share when it's done." Some rolled their eyes, but James prioritized his vision over opinions. The finish line neared. Some scenes felt pointless, dialogues over the top, but he resisted editing, reminding himself, finish first, polish later. Over-editing mid-process would trap him. He'd built a discipline. Every project started with one sentence. This is a story about his North Star. He divided it into beginning, conflict, resolution, using structure as a guide, not a cage. When writing, he ignored perfection, focusing on momentum. If something didn't work, he moved on, returning later. His sister Lily, a painter, once vented, "My paintings suck. I keep stopping at the start." James advised, "Finish it, no matter how bad. You'll only know what works when it's done. Stopping means you'll never see the finish line." Lily smiled. "So make bad art first, then good?" "Exactly," James laughed. "Bad art is a step toward good art. Just don't stop." He finished the web series' first draft in 3 weeks, promising himself no edits or reviews until completion. When done, he celebrated briefly, then let the draft sit for 2 days to gain distance. With a fresh mind, he edited carefully, step by step. He hadn't realized how much the final version would evolve, but perfectionism early on would have stopped him from reaching that finish line. So friends, that's today's book summary. Let us know how you liked it in the comments, and thanks for sticking with us till the end.